Hello, I'm Michael Saxon, and this video supports my website lastpost.net, and that introduces you to the Next Generation or NGC Church response to the weak state of the Western Church and the concurrent collapsing state of Western civilization. Two birds, one stone. The site also gives you free access to my 3 books on it all. In his millennial reign, Jesus will surely concern himself with the application of the 5 core Christian worldview principles I emphasize in my books. At least we can make a reasonable assumption he will. Will he not allow people to exercise their free will, which is the first principle, within his just boundaries? We will have the right to choose from the repertoire of rightness. If we don't, we will be subject to that other core principle, love God by obeying his commands. That's number 2. We will discover Jesus takes his commands very seriously and rules with a rod of iron. Go to Revelation 2:26-27 and Revelation 12:5. He will expect us to exercise individual responsibility, which is the third principle. He will have us love our neighbour, the 4th principle, as ourselves. And he will see that we have every opportunity to achieve our made in God's image potential, the 5th principle. Hence, the NGC models close ties to God's economy, to his way of doing things. Amongst Christians, it's popular to apply a what would Jesus do test to a course of action, but without giving any thought to the foregoing. When we ask WWJD, we are really saying we believe Jesus would act in favour of the oppressed, justice and holiness. We could ask ourselves, instead of what will Jesus do when he is engaged directly with humanity during his millennial reign? And from there, glean something about what we could be doing now. In my 3rd book, NGC, I have a WWJD table arranged in a when-then format to contrast the conditions of injustice and oppression in the West now, either manifest or latent in what I call the problem, with Jesus' possible response. If you don't know what I'm talking about with the problem, you have to go to my site or to other videos to understand what I'm talking about. In the table's 3rd column, I connect Jesus' likely response with parallels from within the NGC strategy's 12 reform approach to stimulating evangelism, while attacking the 2 giants I refer to, which are tearing the West apart. That's liberalism and corporatism, part of the problem. So I'll now take you through 6 examples from that table in the book to illustrate what I'm on about. So, when, for example, a ruling elite is consistently working against the best interests of the people, by definition not loving our neighbour, then we can say that Jesus would probably respond by making the elite responsible for their actions, ending any associated sin and injustice and exposing those involved. And we'll find that the 12 reforms would parallel this in reforms 1, 2, 4, 6, 8 and 12. Then, if we had a when situation, when a small self-interested elite is using their positions of advantage to accumulate vast wealth at the expense of everyone else, then we can expect that Jesus would strip the elites of their wealth and power, ending systems that allow a few to accumulate wealth and power at the expense of society. And again, reforms 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 12 deal with this. Then we have when ordinary people are denied open access to justice. Then Jesus would surely ensure justice is free, immediate, open and local. And reforms 1, 2 and 7 parallel this. The next when usury, which is an old term meaning interest-bearing debt, is endemic, allowing a few institutions to amass vast personal and financial power over people, then surely Jesus would outlaw the practice of usury in banking and initiate a loan-making system if that is necessary within the millennium that does not link debt with interest payments. And Reforms 6, 9, 10 and 12 cover that. Then, another when ordinary people are treated as mere workers and consumers with little power as citizens over the most important things in their lives, then surely Jesus would enable people to work closely together in their workplaces and communities to create high levels of trust, resilience, cooperation and confidence, in whatever form that takes in a millennial situation. And once again, the 12 reforms cover all of this, with the reforms 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 11 and 12. Finally, the last when perverse attitudes to morality and individual human potential are ruining lives and robbing people of their ability to make the most of life as beings created in God's image, then surely, following Jesus' example, he would ensure strong families, moral values, education and community administration promote self-reliance, good individual decision-making and opportunities to make the most of each individual's God-given skills and gifts. And reforms 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 and 7 deal with that. Considerable research has gone into identifying the 12 reforms which form the operating tactical doctrine at the heart of the NGC strategy. The Understanding Our Times rationale for each of them can be found in my first two books, Issachar's Call and Against Our Night, which are free downloads off lastpost.net. Then, in my third book, NGC, I coalesce everything into the church building NGC strategy. Issachar's Call looks at the West's condition from a Christian worldview perspective. It does not specifically isolate the 12 reforms. It culminates in a contemporary Magna Carta, or a Great Charter, for public square action by the church and individual Christians. Against Our Night gives Issachar's Call a sharper focus. It's also written to have more appeal for non-Christians by reducing the number of overt Christian references. The 12 reforms and an implementation manifesto are identified in the book's part 4. NGC concentrates on a prophetic call for Christian and church transformation. Adopting the 12 reforms would give NGCs the right mix of social action, which is dealing with the causes of socio-cultural dysfunction, and social service, helping those who have fallen victim to the effects of the problem's two giants. All 12 run deliberately, like David, at the two Goliaths of liberalism and corporatism, propelling the church out of the wilderness. If they were implemented, both corporatism and liberalism would fall, but the NGC is less concerned about their implementation and far more concerned about their ability to refocus communities on the church in their midst, pushing open the door to engagement and evangelism. Now, dismissing the 12 reforms in the NGC model would be a lost opportunity and a serious mistake. Some of the reforms have found favour in other circles. The first one has been in operation in Switzerland for over 150 years. The financial sector reforms have been called for by many people for at least the last 100 years. Together, the 12 reforms provide the Western Church with the means to break back into the cultural space, reasserting the Church's vital role as defender of faith, truth, justice and righteousness. Thank you.